Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right.
Nice to see you.
Thanks.
So we now have Waihoro, Spreydon-Cashmere-Heathcote, and we have a trustee deputy, Kia Leslie.
Kia ora, Trustee, Deputy Mayor and councillors.
Kia ora.
It is a pleasure to be here as always. As you can see, we've made some decisions recently and the Better Off Fund has been a major focus. We've made some decisions and we've got some upcoming decisions about Better Off Fund. So obviously a big mihi to the government for that funding and a pleasure to be spending the government's money. The finalised Better Off grants, we've put money into neighbourhood building for Neighbours Aotearoa Charitable Trust. We've funded a chiller for the Hunhei Food Bank and a chiller at Addington School for Crossover Trust. And we've provided we'll be funding some shade sales at the Hunhei Community Association. So just a bit of a shout out to Jenny Goodman and Caitlin White there for their advocacy. Age-friendly Spreydon-Cashmere-Heathcote has now expanded to include Heathcote. We've got a new coordinator on board and they're workshopping a plan for the year ahead. So age-friendly Spreydon-Cashmere, obviously Spreydon-Cashmere and Heathcote have a high proportion of older New Zealanders, and they are a group that looks at how council and the community board can improve the way they do business to make things better for older New Zealanders. So that's something that's great to be working on.
Oh, that's cool.
Fuse Youth Trust have signed a memorandum of understanding for use of Matuku Taku, which is a great step forward for that program. We had a site visit to Remuera Reserve to discuss the upcoming tree planting work that's going to go there, which was a really positive visit, and we were able to just be in the space and see some of the possibilities for ways to address resident concerns and deliver more tree planting and I'd really like to acknowledge Dave Kelly, who was a very positive contributor to that conversation and made some very good points about ways we could improve that reserve. And it was a great example of how when you get on site and everyone has a good korero, it can actually be more than the sum of the parts. Finally, as always, Spreydon-Cashmere-Heathcote, it wouldn't be our presentation without that beautiful picture of the South Library site. We are really excited to see the renders for South Library that are coming soon. That's a big, exciting step for us as a board to have that work going on. We are, however, slightly concerned that there was recently an information session as part of the long-term plan process where staff discussed the proposals that they had in flight to use pop-up space at Barrington Mall and the discovery that realistically that's going to be challenging to deliver within the current funding envelope that they perceive they have available to them. So as a bit of context, when the original report came to the board last year, there was 750,000 tagged for the delivery of temporary services. And that was part of what the board signed off and then what subsequently came to council for sign-off, which you did sign off. This was intended to fund a substantial pop-up facility. And my understanding, and this is obviously something that happened before the transition to public workshops, was that this was removed as part of a cost-saving exercise during the LTP process. This was, as I understand again, based on advice we've received owing to delivery capacity problems about delivering that facility. And we totally understand that we don't want to be ploughing money into something that's not going anywhere. So that's, not ideal, but it's part of the process. We understood that there was a reasonable likelihood of the possibility of additional services being delivered from additional space at Barrington Mall and potentially other locations in the board area. Spreydon Library is physically incapable of delivering substantial additional services. It's simply not big enough. And it's just a physical capacity issue. So for things like public programming, the fire capacity is, I think, somewhere in the 50s. You simply cannot deliver major public programming out of that compared to South Library, which had a fire capacity in the 300 to 400 range from memory. So we have real concerns about where that's landing, and we would just really encourage council to think very carefully about if there is a need for some small additional funding to ensure that those services can be delivered, then that would be something that would make a huge difference to the success of this project. Kia ora.
Thank you. That's great. Are there any time for one quick question? No? Oh, Councillor Scandrett?
Just following on from what Kia's very well said, you can't expect the second largest library in Christchurch not to suddenly serve and it's the wide community. It's not just the immediate community. Because it's the second largest, it's a very wide community. So I think we need a reconnection between us and staff, because we've gone out, we've consulted the public, and things have changed. And we fully recognise the 750,000 was totally unreasonable in the financial situation we're in, but we do need to deliver something, and we do need clarification on that. So I think there should be a reconnection with our staff and the board. So sorry to...
Yeah, just very briefly to follow on from what Councillor Scandrett has said, I think one of the really important things is that this is a very busy library and it covers a huge chunk of the network. Particularly for me, one of the you have the Apawa, the St Martins, the Sydenham, Waltham areas where having access to these services is really important, and it is a huge part of the community. We understand that, we're getting an awesome new library and that's brilliant, but we don't want to leave some of those particularly more vulnerable users out in the cold for potentially 2 years while that happens.
Right.
Thank you.
I think we've taken a note of that. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you. Pleasure as always.
And I'd like to welcome